At least you're not going hard.
District, I'd like to welcome everyone to Emcid's annual Law Enforcement Appreciation Dinner and Awards Ceremony. Before we get started, Chairman Brenda Webb will lead us in the invocation, followed by the presentation of our flags, and Director Martin Zepeda, if you'd like to come up, will lead us in the U.S. and Texas pledges. Please stand at this time.
And ho! Order on. Post. Forward, march.
The Republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Texas.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, I'm sitting here. That's right. Yeah, I'll grab this one. No big deal. Got it?
Five 9 says, "Blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called the children of God." We hold this event each year to say thank you to the men and women who are unafraid to put themselves in harm's way to protect our community and keep us safe. You provide an invaluable service. We can never thank you enough for what you do to protect our community. We're blessed to have such honorable men and women in our community. You're all the reason we can sleep peacefully, live happily, and enjoy everything that East Montgomery County has to offer without fear. You make this community home to many of us. Before we take off to get our plates, I'd like to recognize our Emcid board members in attendance this evening. First off, Chairman of the Board, Brenda Webb. Secretary of the Board, Stephen Carlisle. Board Member Leonard Rogers. Treasurer Fred Wetz. And Board Member Martin Zepeda. And Richard Tram and Catherine Pearson cannot be with us tonight, but extend their congratulations to all the honorees. I'd like to also recognize some of our elected officials with us this evening. First off, State Senator Brandon Crichton. Sheriff Rand Henderson. Constable Rowdy Hayden. County Commissioner James Metz. Judge Jason Dunn. Patton Village Mayor Scott Anderson. Splendora Mayor Dorothy Welch. Splendora Councilman David Aden. Splendora Councilwoman Tracy Holloway. Splendora Councilwoman Evelyn Myers. Wood Branch Mayor Mike Tyson. At this point in the program, let's please enjoy our meal. We'll have dinner and be back with our program following the dinner. Thank you. It is well known in our community and very well known in law enforcement. And speaking about law enforcement, when I was making my introductions earlier, there was someone in the audience I missed. I'd like to welcome our District Attorney, Brent Ligon. Looks like he's doing dishes over there. That's some serious teamwork going on there, so appreciate you being here, Brent. Our speaker, he's lived a full life of interesting experiences, and he was the only American in the organized crime department in the Soviet National Police, where he conducted research over Soviet organized crime. He then became a security consultant in Moscow. That's just way too cold. I don't know why you want to live in Moscow, but you have to ask him. There's a reason we live in Houston. He's worked for many media outlets such as the New York Times, the Washington Post. He's helped produce 3 documentaries on Russian crime and appeared on a TV program, Investigative Reports. Now, he is a featured instructor at the Leadership Command College at Sam Houston State University. He's a motivational speaker and author of several books, including Vodka, Hookers, and the Russian Mafia, My Life in Moscow. There's got to be some questions about that, I don't know. He's spoken at over 400 conferences and trainings, and he's graciously agreed to speak to us this evening. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Joe Serio.
What's possible? What's possible? It's a question that all of us are asking. Whether you realize it or not, in those words or not, you're asking this question, what's possible? If I go to work for Montgomery County for 30 years, what will I have at the end? What kind of a life can I live? If I work in my department, Patton Village, my friend, what will I have at the end? Your kids, if you have kids at home, are asking the same thing. What would be possible? Can I join football? Can I go to the college I want to? What's possible? Everybody is asking this question. I learned a lot about this in Moscow. I do live in Texas now, by the way. I learned a lot about this in Moscow. My supervisor in Moscow in the Organized Crime Control Department was the deputy chief of Organized Crime Control for the entire Soviet Union, general in the Soviet police, and I had a chance to sit in his office and visit his home for a year and watch him. And this was a cop's cop and a man's man. He was Leroy Jethro Gibbs and Robert De Niro, and he's a tough guy. But he had everything sorted out. He knew what he was about. I watched how he related to his wife and his kids. I watched how he related to his staff and to gangsters. Everybody respected this guy because he treated everybody fairly, whether you had to arrest them or just interact with them. That was amazing to watch him, to see what's possible from this guy. I remember one day we were sitting in his apartment on the couch, and his wife called from the kitchen, and he was off the couch in a nanosecond moving into the kitchen. I never saw my father do that. That was incredible. I'm just thinking to myself, where are you going? What are you doing? Do you know who you are? That's just your wife calling. I was 23 years old. I had no idea what the hell I was talking about. Everything is about what's possible. It's the reason we're here tonight. In 2019, 11 people stood up and said to themselves, what's possible? What if I show up to work better? What if I think about serving the community better than I have in the past? What if I think about upping my game? All of this is about what's possible. Over the last 3 years, I saw this play out in for me, a dramatic fashion on a personal level. My brother Greg is a bulldozer. He's a lawyer. He's a businessman. He's a politician. He's a lobbyist. He's a firefighter. He was a fire chief. He was a bulldozer. We never expected anything even remotely soft coming out of this guy. And then 3 years ago, he sends me an email. He said, I don't know if this is any good or not, but here's a song I wrote. A song you wrote? You're not supposed to have these kinds of feelings. What are you talking about? And I read the song. It was about Tiffany, 20-year-old who overdosed, went into cardiac arrest, and died. It was one of the calls that he responded to. And he needed to do something to get it out of his system. So he wrote a song. Wow, that was incredible. I read the email, forgot about it. 3 years later, last August, I'm in Chicago at my brother Steve's house. I'm going through my emails, deleting. I come to this email, about to hit delete, and I realize I'm in a different place in my life now than I was 3 years ago when I got this email originally. I started taking guitar lessons last January. I have a guitar instructor who's a producer, who has a studio in his house. My 58-year-old brother started playing the bass about 5 years ago. So I called him the next day. I said, I've been thinking about a couple of people you met 3 years ago. He said, oh yeah? He had no idea what I was talking about. I said, do you remember Heroin Harry and Xanax Sue? These are two of the characters in this song. He didn't remember. I said, you remember Tiffany, the 20-year-old who went to cardiac arrest and died? He said, yeah. It starts coming back to him. I said, you remember that song you sent me 3 years ago? He said, yeah. I said, well, guess what? It's a song now. He said, what? I said, I found the words. I sent them to my guitar instructor. I said to him, Micah, my guitar instructor, Micah, how much would it cost me for you to clean up these words a little bit and set it to music? 30 minutes later, he sends me back an email. He said, it's going to cost you this much. By the way, here's the song with all the chords already worked out, and attached is an audio of me playing your brother's song on guitar. He figured the whole thing out in less than half an hour. Oh my God. So I told my brother, you're going to fly down to Austin, which is where I live, and you're going to play the bass on your own song, and you're going to record it, and we're going to make a record for you for your 60th birthday. He was laughing like a schoolboy. This guy, this hard-ass lawyer, lobbyist, businessman, politician, was laughing and giddy like a schoolboy. It was the most incredible thing I ever heard come out of his mouth. I've never seen him like this ever. So he came to Austin. December 7th, we recorded his song. I played the guitar, he played the bass, Micah played the guitar, my brother Steve from Chicago came down. He's a professional videographer and photographer, and he shot the session in the studio, and it was incredible. And the funny thing about all this is, a year prior to it, my brother got triggered by something I said to him, screamed at me and hung up on the phone, and never talked to me again for 11 months. Our relationship was about to fall apart. But I watched Gennady in Moscow, and the question is, what's possible? What's possible even when things don't feel great? What's possible even when you think not so much is possible? The song that we created is an extra bond between me and him, all three of us, in fact. So what did we do? We made plans to go to music together. We all jumped on planes, went to Boston, went to a concert. And we had such a great time, we just bought tickets to jump on a plane and go to Boston again this year to see a concert together, and to Chicago to see a concert together. Because the definition of what's possible is shifting. And we decided out of this song that we should create something for first responders. We should create a space where 911 dispatchers, a community I work with a lot, firefighters, law enforcement can go to a safe space and dump anything that they create. Don't care if it's good or bad. Anything they create to help get rid of this trauma and stress of the job. So we're in the process right now of creating that. And when he hung up the phone a year and a half ago, screaming at me, it felt like our relationship was over. So you ask yourself, what's possible? What's possible for you? What's possible for your relationships? What's possible for your departments? Because 11 people here tonight showed you in 2019 what's possible. And the main ingredient to what's possible is getting out of our own heads and getting off our own backs and opening our vision so that we can see how these 2 points get connected. 2 points that we think are unrelated. How are you going to connect those points? That's what this whole thing is about. It's what mentorship is about. It's what coaching is about. It's what great law enforcement is about, is how do we serve the community to create something that didn't exist before, to change minds, to shift perceptions and impressions of us. So I've talked enough. Now it's your turn. I'd like everyone to stand up. If I ask you to applaud, what would you do? Go ahead. Go ahead and do it. It's really the only way I get a standing ovation, so thank you very much. Secondly, if I asked you to clap, what would you do? Sounds pretty much the same, doesn't it? So now I'd ask you to clap out a rhythm. Go ahead, clap out a rhythm. Yeah, no, stop. It sounds bad. Yeah, you in particular, no, that's horrible. It's really bad. So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to clap out this rhythm. Big round of applause. Have a seat. That was just to work off the mashed potatoes, that's all I said. So now I have a question for you. What just happened? What was that all about? What do you got? Participation. Following instructions. What else? Teamwork. In order for that to work, everyone in this room had to listen to everyone else in this room. Here's the question. What does the rhythm of your department sound like? We're here to celebrate 11 people who in 2019 said, you know what? I can contribute more and better to the rhythm of this department. The song that our department has created, like the song my brother and I created with ourselves at a time when our relationship wasn't that awesome, changes everything. The song your department creates and the rhythm that you live your daily lives by, what's possible? How's your morale? How are your attitudes? How are people showing up to work? What's your overtime look like? What's your sick leave look like? What's possible? In order to get something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done, which means you must change. If you want your department to change, you must change. There's no two ways about it. Cannot be otherwise. My mother passed away a couple of months ago. She was 88 years old. She had an amazing life. My brother Greg, I told you about the songwriter, the budding songwriter, is number 7 in our family. I'm number 9. My brother Steve, the photographer, is number 10. And that's not the end of it. There are 2 more after that. 12 kids. My mother basically raised single-handedly. My father really didn't participate much in the whole ordeal. And she left us multiple legacies. One that I'd like to share with you right now. She would gather the grandchildren around. She had 21 grandchildren. She'd get them around the table, and usually most of us were with her at the same time, and she would say, you know what, kids? If I take this one match, it's super easy to break. You break it with 2 fingers. Really easy. Here's the deal. If all you kids stick together, much harder to break. If you all stick together, it's much harder to break. It doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean everyone's going to like each other all the time. But if you create a bundle that's unbreakable, it won't matter what's happening in the outside world. What does your bundle look like? This is Rhonda. This is Stephen. This is Jason. This is Martin. This is Phil. Yeah, I see you in the back, Phil. And that's what it takes. It takes all of us, it takes all of you standing together, taking a step back, getting out of your own way, getting off your own back, getting off the backs of other people around you, and finding out what's possible. The way we find out about what's possible is by talking to each other. Is by finding out what's the skill set in this room. By finding out what do all the people around me have to offer. How can they complement my weakness? How can I take their strength and my strength and combine it to create something that's unstoppable? How can we dig in to our soft side to understand the role that our fear and our emotional intelligence and our feelings play? And the importance of digging that out, to face the trauma, to face the stress, to talk to each other more. Because when we start doing that, we start seeing what's possible. And when we have a group of people that are free to think about what's possible, the things that become possible are unbelievable. I learned this from a Soviet cop. I learned this from my mother. I learned this from taking the lousy relationship with my brother, putting it together, and creating a song that will have an impact on other people. The idea of the song just to create a space for first responders to come and dump their stuff. Because we know this stuff's heavy. And you need to get rid of it. You need to let it go. That's what's possible, especially in this day and age, especially with the stress and the consequences that law enforcement in particular is feeling. I would like to leave you with that. I want you to think about the 11 people that we're honoring and celebrating tonight, and think about how you, in your life, in your department, can run over this question, what's possible? What can we be that we haven't been yet? Thank you.
Where's the fire chief at? I got a match up here. I'm kind of concerned. Dr. Serio, thank you so much for those inspirational words and the time to come in and speak with our group this evening. At this time, we'd like to move on with our program and recognize our officers of the year. Brenda, if you'd like to come up, please. And Sandy. So we have some trouble. After you've taken your individual picture, please head over to the staircase to the right over here, and we'll take a group photo at that time. So the first officer to be recognized this evening is Twan Ginn from Lone Star College, Kingwood Police Department. If you'd like to please come up. The next officer to be recognized this evening is Deputy Zach Beatty, of Montgomery County Constable Precinct 4. The next officer to be recognized this evening is Sergeant Willie Kendrick, Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. Next officer to be recognized this evening is Officer Jason Potter with New Caney ISD Police Department. The next officer to be recognized this evening is Officer Jacob Culver from Roman Forest Police Department. Next officer to be recognized this evening is Officer Daniel Santiago, Splendora Police Department. Next officer to be recognized this evening is Trooper John Sylvia from the Texas Department of Public Safety. And Trooper Sylvia is going to be also accepting the award for Trooper Ethan McAdoo from the Texas Department of Public Safety, who couldn't be with us this evening. Next officer to be recognized this evening is Officer Taylor Lisk with Wood Ranch Police Department. Next officer to be recognized this evening is Detective Stephanie Lee with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. Let's have one more round of applause for our recipients. While they're back there getting all beautified, to walk up on the steps and smile. This evening, once again, we'd like to thank Judge Jason Dunn for sponsoring our trophies this evening. So thank you, Judge Dunn. Thank you. We'd also like to thank calling businesses and people for their donations to make this event possible each year. And once again, many of these items are contained in their bags and items that they were presented this evening. Chili's Grill and Bar, Cole's Smokehouse, Commissioner James Metz, Constable Rowdy Hayden, Flowers of Kingwood, Gringo's Tex-Mex, Hawk Brow Steakhouse, Italiano's, La Casita Mexican Restaurant, Longhorn Steakhouse, McDonald's in New Caney, Olive Garden, Rogue Stone Company, State Senator Brandon Crichton, Texas Roadhouse, The Point at Valley Ranch, Trout Tire, U.S. Congressman Kevin Brady, and Whataburger. So thank you all. District's perspective, thank you all for everything you do for our community. It absolutely makes a difference, and we appreciate the time of the officers. Once again, most importantly, I'd like to tell you thank you to the spouses and family members of the law enforcement officers that are here. So thank you very much for allowing them the time to go out and serve our community. And with that, we'll wrap up this evening, and we had a great evening and look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you again.